it's officially been 30 years now. 30 years since Sega launched the Genesis in North America. This is my original Genesis console that I got 30 years ago. I am pretty old, but so is the Genesis. Hello and welcome to GameSack, and for the 30th anniversary of the Genesis, Sega has released the Genesis Mini. It's coming out on September 19th, and well, it has 42 built-in games. And I'm here to give you some impressions, so let's get to it. The Sega Genesis Mini is based on the Model 1 Genesis, which was launched in North America on August 14, 1989. As with all of the other mini consoles that have been released by everybody else so far, they did a really good job with the aesthetics. Actually, they seem to have gone above and beyond here. You have a working power switch, which of course turns the unit on and off. You have a working reset button, which calls up the in-game menu. And yes, even the volume slider moves, though it doesn't actually adjust the in-game volume. Of course, it belongs in the up position. It even has working cartridge flaps, which is really cool. Oh, and the cover for the Sega CD expansion slot can even come off. Will Sega introduce a Sega CD Mini someday that could possibly be attached? Well, there are no electrical connections in either the cartridge or the CD ports. The unit itself costs $80 and comes with two 3-button controllers, an HDMI cable, a USB cable, and an AC adapter for the USB cable if you need it. One of the controllers that came with my Genesis Mini doesn't work at all. Straight out of the box, it's dead. Next, I feel like it wasn't the best decision to include the 3-button version when there are games that use 6 buttons that are included with the system. But this is likely because of some deal that Sega has with Retrobit, as they want to sell those 6-button controllers, which are compatible. I tried my Saturn USB 6-button controller and it doesn't work at all. Inside the Genesis Mini are chips that I don't recognize from Zwicky, 4C, and Unilk. Turning the unit on, you're greeted with a menu. You can sort the games by release date, genre, number of players, or alphabetically as I prefer. The menu looks good and it's easy to navigate the 42 included games. And if you press the B button, you can change the view so you see the box spines as if they're on a shelf. If you set the system language to Japanese, you not only get the Japanese boxes for each game, but the Japanese versions of the games themselves. The menu music was done by Yuzo Koshiro, and basically it's just bits and pieces of each game's soundtrack strewn together. As far as the display options, you have a few choices here. You can stretch the games to fit your entire screen, or you can have them in the correct 4:3 aspect ratio if you're a normal person. There are a couple of different borders that you can choose, as well as solid black, thankfully. If you press the C button in the screen, you engage the CRT filter. It looks kinda dim and generally, I don't know. They didn't seem to increase the gamma or brightness while applying the scan lines, which makes everything super dark. This definitely isn't for me. As far as playing the games go, it's fairly straightforward. The project was handled by M2, who are renowned for their conversions and ports of old stuff like this. During a game, pressing the reset button on the console or holding down the start button on the controller for a while will bring up the in-game menu. Each game has 4 slots for save states, and you can also reset the game or exit back to the main menu. Games like Phantasy Star 4, which have an in-game save option, can also be saved that way as normal, and it doesn't take up any slots. The visuals are all presented in 720p. Generally, it all seems to look pretty good. If you choose the 4:3 aspect ratio, it uses an integer scale vertically, so that means there's a border around the entire game. And that's fine. Unlike the NES and SNES Classic, there's no choosing between pixel perfect and 4:3 here, and there really doesn't need to be. Only the games that are 256 pixels wide on here will exhibit any shimmering during the scrolling. However, most Genesis games are 320 pixels wide, so it's rarely an issue. Another thing that's nice is that it gets rid of the dumb colored border that surrounds the Genesis games. It also runs faster than real Genesis hardware. It runs at 60.24 Hz, whereas a real Genesis runs ever so slightly slower than NTSC spec at 59.92 Hz. Granted, literally nobody will be able to notice this with their eyeballs. Audio is one of the hardest things to get right when it comes to emulation of the Genesis. How is it here? Well, it's mostly pretty good if you use your ears to judge. It's nowhere near as bad as it could be if this were, say, made by AtGames. That said, it isn't perfect. It has slightly less bass than a real Model 1 Genesis and a more aggressive low-pass filter. This probably won't matter to most people. Some of the sound quality is also slightly different. Here's how Space Harrier's scream sounds on a real Genesis. And here's how it sounds on the Genesis Mini. It doesn't end there, as other games are affected. Here's Stage 4's music from Thunder Force 3 on a real Genesis. And here's that same music on the Genesis Mini. On top of that, there's lag in literally all of the audio, meaning sound effects will play slightly later than they're supposed to. Again, here's a real Genesis, listen closely. And here's the Genesis Mini. I wonder if this is just a common issue caused by the hardware that these mini consoles seem to be using. Okay, so now you know about the device itself, let's take a look at the games. Yep, every single one of them. And now for the games. There's 42 of them on here, which is twice as many as the SNES Classic has. No matter what, there's just no way to satisfy everyone with the titles that they chose. But let's go through them alphabetically. First up is Alex Kidd and the Enchanted Castle. I'm not sure why this one is on here, as it doesn't have many fans. Alicia Dragoon is a good choice, and I don't think very many people played it back in the day. Some might be questioning why Altered Beast is on here. Keep in mind, this one came with the console up until Sonic came out, so it's kind of a no-brainer. Plus, it's 2-player, assuming both of your controllers that came with your Genesis Mini actually work. Beyond Oasis is another great choice, and this one will satisfy those looking for an action quest that might remind you of Zelda-style gameplay. I'm totally blown away that Castle of Illusion made the cut. This is a licensed property after all. It's short, but it's definitely one of the better games on the system. Castlevania Bloodlines is a very solid choice, and more people absolutely need to play this one. Columns is an underrated puzzle game. I always liked the music and sound in this one. Comic Zone is good for its style, and I like the ideas that they had, but the gameplay never really impressed me. Contra Hardcore is great, even though a lot of people seem to have a very hard time with it. And that's because it's tough. Darius is an unreleased game seen for the first time on the console here. It's pretty brutal. From what I've played, I think I might like the PC Engine versions better, even though I didn't think they were that great to begin with. Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, aka Puyo Puyo, is one of the few puzzle games that I enjoy playing from time to time. So good choice. Dynamite Headdy is another good game, but the US version here is tough. Once you get used to it though, you'll be able to make it pretty far. The Genesis version of Earthworm Jim 1 is the second best version, only behind the Sega CD. Can't go wrong here. Echo the Dolphin is okay. I just can't get into the cartridge version though. I'm just too used to the amazing music from the Sega CD version. Eternal Champions is eternally boring, especially without a 6-button controller. Ghouls and Ghosts is awesome. This is the easiest version of the game, even if you set it to professional, which you should. Anyone can beat this. Golden Axe is awesome, and it's another great 2-player game here. The Genesis version even has an extra stage and last boss. Gunstar Heroes is awesome, and I'm glad it's on here, even though Contra already is. Kid Chameleon is a game that's probably made better by being on the Genesis Mini because now you can have save states. Trust me, you want them. Landstalker is a fun isometric adventure game, and it's a good addition. Light Crusader might even be a better isometric game. I don't feel that many people have played this one, so hopefully gamers give it a chance. Mega Man The Wily Wars has Mega Man 1, 2, and 3 all in one package. The controls are laggy and it's not the best conversion. Mega Man 2 is stuck on hard mode. I'd rather play these on the NES. Monster World 4 is here in English and everyone should play this. It's a fantastic action platformer and I even had a great time plowing through it in Japanese back when I got it. Phantasy Star 4 is an insanely great RPG and a wonderful choice. I love the battles here. Road Rash 2 is really fun, and it's also the only racing game you're going to get on here. Glad it's a good one. Shining Force is a spectacular strategy RPG that's easy to learn and fun to play. Shinobi 3 is an awesome ninja game, but if I had to choose, I'd rather have Revenge of Shinobi. Honestly, I'd prefer it if both of them were on here and Alex Kidd got the boot. Sonic the Hedgehog is Sonic the Hedgehog. However, if you switch your system language to Japanese, you can play the finished version with extra scrolling and other effects. Sonic 2 is more of the same, and I know why it's here, but I'm just personally all Sonic'd out. The good news though is that the 2-player mode looks fantastic and it's rendered in progressive scan, so no interlacing artifacts at all. Sonic Spinball is another one I just can't get into, but Sega loves to go overboard with all things Sonic. I'm not sure why Space Harrier 2 is on here, especially considering that the game struggles to run at 15 frames per second. Street Fighter 2 Special Champion Edition is a good game, if you have a 6-button controller. I do not. Streets of Rage 2 is a fantastic beat-em-up and it only feels natural that it's here, and it's a great 2-player game as well. Strider is another good one. It's short but sweet. Super Fantasy Zone was never released in the US for the real Genesis. To me, this is the true Fantasy Zone 2. Tetris is a game which is extremely rare and was pulled by Sega shortly after its release due to all of the legal stuff going on with the game back in the day. What can I say? It's Tetris, and there doesn't seem to be anything special about this version. Thunder Force 3 is an amazing shooter that anyone can beat after a few tries. I'm surprised that Thunder Force 4 isn't here as well, probably because it was released on the Switch not that long ago as a standalone game. Toe Jam and Earl is a 1 or 2 player walking simulator. If you like walking around, you'll love this, I guess. I could never really get into Vector Man, but lots of other people seem to like it for whatever reason, so here it is. Virtua Fighter 2 is such an odd choice. I mean, why? Wonder Boy in Monster World is the prequel to Monster World 4, but the stories don't really tie into each other. This is a great game that starts out kind of slow, so give it a chance. Finally, we have World of Illusion, which is another great Disney game, but this one can be played with 2 players. Definitely a great addition. Well, there you go. That's the Sega Genesis Mini for you. And what do you think? Are you planning on getting one of these things on September 19th? And if you happen to be watching this video after September 19th, 2019, did you get one? And what do you think? Let me know. In the meantime, thank you for watching GameZack. Alright, so I have this Genesis-shaped USB hub hooked up to the Sega Genesis Mini through the USB connection, and coming from that I have the USB power going through the RetroPad 32 connected to a real 16-bit Sega Genesis from 1989. Now, I only have power connected to the real 16-bit Sega Genesis from 1989. And we're going to see if I throw the power switch on the Genesis, if it powers the Genesis Mini, which in turn powers the Genesis USB hub. No time like the present to find out. Let's see if it works. It totally works! Oh my god, I can't believe that! Oh man, that's awesome. I love science. Okay, I guess there can be too much blast processing. Learn something new every day.